Okay, so we'll pick up here in lesson 2. I'm on page 36. And when I started Photoshop, I did as instructed in step 1, which is to hold down the Control-Alt-Shift or Command-Option-Shift on Mac to reset the default settings. You'll want to do that every time to make sure you get the settings the same as the book. Now, we're going to skip the steps 3 through 7 described in the book where you use Adobe Bridge. You're welcome to use Adobe Bridge. It's a fine photo manager, image manager, but we're just going to go ahead and straight open Start TIFF inside Photoshop. And I've already done that, opened up O2 Start TIFF inside Photoshop. First thing I'll do is Control 0 to have the image fill my screen. Now let's take a look at the image. We have a few things. Obviously, it's kind of a poorly scanned photo which had a crease in it, so our goal is to straighten this thing out, get rid of the unwanted material, the crease, and there's a person here we don't want in the picture, and generally brighten the picture up, make it look a little bit better. So that's our plan. Let's go do it. First, we'll use the crop tool to go and re-straighten the image. Here's the crop tool here, and I'll go back down here at the bottom and change my settings to show current tool, just to remind me what tool that I'm in. I'm in the crop tool, and I'm going to go ahead and set the settings for the crop tool so that it crops at a very specific height and width and pixel resolution. So in order to do that, I'm going to click up here where it says ratio and change that to W times H times resolution. And then in the places here, I'm going to type in a width of 7 inches, 7 space IN, tab on over to type in a height of 7 inches, 7 space IN, and tab on over to give me a resolution. I'm going to type in 200 pixels per inch. And I'll tab to get out of that. First things first, let's straighten the image. I'm going to use the straighten icon right here, this thing. So I'll go ahead and use my straighten tool to draw a line parallel to the top of the image, as close as possible to parallel. That's pretty decent. And Photoshop will then rotate the image so that that line is horizontal. Now what I'll do is trim the white border. I'll just drag the corners of the grid so it comes in and crops out the white border. And I'll get rid of the white extra scan and also the white border from the image. I can put my own white border on if I need it. So I'm going to drag here at the corners as necessary. You may have to reposition things a little bit to get them to fit. And I will hit the commit, the check mark. You can also hit the enter key in this case to commit to that crop. I'll do Control 0 one more time to make this thing bigger. And I'll come down to my status bar here, and I'll change this to show document dimensions for a minute so we can see that it's a 7 by 7 inch. It's one way to see it. I'm going to actually go back to my current tool. I think that's a more useful thing to keep handy. Let's do a file save. We haven't done a save yet. We'll do a file save. I'm going to do a save as to make sure I save it in the right name. I'm going to call this thing O2 working. Come in here and change the file type to be .psd. And now Photoshop will add the working.psd. Next, let's adjust the color tone. You see it's got kind of a greenish yellowish cast, so we'll change that. I'm going to go back to my move tool. If you haven't already done so, do Control 0 to maximize your window. Let's go now and we'll choose a curves adjustment layer. Again, a non-destructive edit is an adjustment layer. And we'll come over here and choose curves. So in this case, I'm doing a very simple thing with curves. I'm just going to have curves set the colors correct when I choose a white point. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to actually zoom in. I'll hit the Z on my keyboard to get my zoom tool. I'll zoom in on this girl's white dress. So I have scrubby zoom on. I'm going to turn that off. I'll do Control 0. With regular zoom, I'll zoom in on this girl's white dress. Now I will use my curves adjustment layer, and I'll use this icon right here that will sample the white image. And what you want to do basically is just click on a place on the image that should be white, and the curves will adjust to make it white. So I'll click a little place on her. I'll click this spot on her dress right here and say, that is white. And you see immediately that changes the color of the image. Zoom out and get a look at it. Again, if you want to see it before and after, you can come to your curves adjustment layer and just click the eyeball on and off to see before and after. And that definitely looks better. The sky looks more like the sky, etc. So it's already much better, but we can go better still. Let's add one more adjustment layer. Again, I'll come up to adjustments. I'll come and I'll do a levels adjustment. This is also great for controlling colors. In this case, I'm going to try and drag the left triangle, the blacks, under the histogram to 15. And you can click and drag if you want, but sometimes it's easier to type, hey, pretty good, I got 15. You can click right in there and also type 15. And I'll come over here to the midtones, and I'll, instead of the 1.0, I'll type in, as recommended by the book, 0.9. And you see that makes the image look a little bit more rich, more vibrant. That's definitely a better way to go. Next, the book is asking us to flatten the image to make this more easily edited, and there's nothing wrong with flattening, except for the fact that you lose the ability to go back and make these changes. So since we've made these non-destructive changes, what I'm going to recommend is that we save an unflattened version of the image first before we flatten. So here's how I'll do that. First, I'll do a regular file save. Then I'll come up again, and of course you can OK the options here. I'll come up again, and I'll do a file and save as, and I'll call this one O2 working, and I'll change the name to O2 working - unflattened. And what I'll do is here I'll choose save as a copy. And what as a copy will do is it'll make another copy of this file for me, leave me in the original file. I'll come down and I'll go over and click on save. And again, I'll OK the options. And I'm still working my original image, which I can flatten, but I have another unflattened version I can always go back to and use later. Next, we'll go and flatten the image. I'm going to come and go to Layer and come down and choose Flatten Image. Here is that guy, Layer and Flatten Image. Here it is near the bottom, Flatten Image. Now everything is merged down to the background layer. Those adjustment layers are gone, which means that we can't go back and tweak those anymore. This is where we are, unless we go back, of course, to the unflattened file.